Thank you very much for coming today. So before I start, I'd like to ask you a question. We were discussing on the Bhagavad Gita. So I'd like to ask, I'll be using this as a whiteboard or a blackboard to write some things. So what do you think the Bhagavad Gita is about? What does it teach? Why is it relevant? Why do we need to, why should we be interested in knowing what it says? Yes.
Teaches us how to live our life, as giving like multiple examples Krishna gives through Arjuna, so we can like learn that and like apply in our life.
Okay, so how to live. That's one, you can say that's the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. Anything? Thank you. That's good. Anything else? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like the way it starts is when Krishna tries to take Arjun out of the moha and help him to face the reality. So maybe it helps us to face the reality and take the decisions accordingly.
Okay. Face reality and make decisions. That's a good one. So Arjuna is. Can you see that? Interesting. I can't see that. Okay. So and make decisions. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
In my opinion, it's like the manual for life, like how to live, like to know the difference between matter, spirit, and the soul, all of those, and to know beyond these things, like beyond the material education, to know about the spiritual education.
Okay. So it's something similar to how to live. It's you're saying like a guidebook or a manual for life. I prefer the word guidebook, not manual, because life is not so simple that a manual can be made for life. Life is extremely complex, and what we get are guiding principles. Manual is like specific directions. Press this button, turn this on, put the socket over here. Life is too. No manual will ever be able to describe life, guide us in life. It's a guidebook. Yeah. But yeah, it's a guidebook for life, and that's what makes it of enduring value. Anything else?
It gives us information about our relationship with God.
Okay. Okay, it helps us develop our layer, informs us about our relationship with God. Why does this relationship matter at all? Thoughts? When I was introduced to Bhakti, I tried to share. Rohit, I tried to share it with one of my relatives. And he said, I believe in God. He said, he is happy there, I am happy here. So, why does the relationship matter?
We need to recognize that we are not this body, we are the spirit, soul, we are part and parcel of God.
So many people are living without recognizing it. We need to recognize it.
We need to realize the goal of our life, human,
Okay, different people have different goals.
like the actual goal,
Sorry?
the actual.
Okay, good point. So, see, we all have beyond our personal goals. We all have personal goals. But does life have a universal goal? I may want to become an engineer, somebody wants to become a doctor. This is fine. There's just pathways we're taking in life. But pathways to what purpose? Is there there's a universal purpose for life. And that needs to be understood. Any one last point before we move ahead? Thank you. These are very good inputs. Yes.
It answers who I am and why I'm here.
Okay, so you can see questions about identity and destiny. Where are we supposed to go? What? Good point. So yes, the Bhagavad Gita can be many things to many people. Let's look at the Bhagavad Gita from the perspective of what it did for Arjuna and what it can do for us. So Does anyone know how many chapters are there in the Bhagavad Gita? 18. Okay. And how many verses? 700 verses, yes. So now, with these 18 chapters and 700 verses, actually the Bhagavad Gita itself, the 700 verses, are it's a very small text in one sense. The text of the Bhagavad Gita, all the verses can fit on the front and back page of New York Times. So it's among the smallest sacred books in the world. And yet, there is something profoundly significant. And let's try to understand it, not from the context of the Gita itself. So at the start of the Gita, Arjuna is confused. Arjuna is disheartened. What does he do? He puts aside his bow. Can't fight. Just quits. By the end of the Bhagavad Gita, that same Arjuna is convinced and he is confident. He has picked up his bow. Yatra partho dhanurdharaha. He has picked up his bow in readiness to fight. So what does this refer to? That means whatever conversation happened, it completely transformed Arjuna's disposition. And within the whole Bhagavad Gita's narration, which takes about an hour or two, depending on how fast it is recited, it's a complete transformation. Suppose you had a friend who was very depressed, almost on the verge of quitting their career, maybe ending their life, and that person goes to a therapy session and comes out with a completely transformed disposition, cheerful, ready to take on the world. What happened inside the session? What did therapist speak? How did this change come about? So we can look at it from that perspective. Arjuna's bow represents the human determination, the human enthusiasm. Basically, Arjuna is every man, he's each one of us. And sometimes life is to overwhelm us, life confuses us, life disheartens us. And the Gita helps Arjuna, and similarly, it can help each one of us. So, this transformation the Gita brings about, I talked about these two things, confused and disheartened. These refer to the two inner faculties that we have. We have reason and we have emotion. We have a head and we have a heart. We have the rational side and the emotional side. And at the start of the Gita, both of them have gone negative. His reason is unable to figure out what is to be done. As far as emotion, he is disheartened. So disheartened is on the verge of tears. And the Gita transformed. So let's look at how does the Gita go about doing this. And I will use an acronym GITA to talk about how the Gita guides Arjuna. Now, the first G is guidance. That Arjuna is on the battlefield. He's in the middle of the battlefield. And that is the time when he is supposed to know. This is, say, the Pandava army, and Arjuna is there. He's not officially their commander, but he is their most powerful warrior. And everybody is looking up to him to be able to fight. And when initially Arjuna is, say, here with Krishna, then slowly they come here in between. And there's Arjuna, there is Krishna, and here prominently on the other side is Bhishma and Drona. So they're the opposing warriors, key among them. And Arjuna sees them. At that point, Bhishma Drona Pramuktaha Sarvesham cha Mahikshitam. He sees all these two of them. Just becomes, I can't fight. At this point, what exactly has gone wrong for Arjuna? Some people feel that Arjuna just got an attack of nerves, just lost his nerve. Sometimes before a big match in sports, sometimes the player may become very nervous. Or say now this war is going on between Ukraine and Russia. Both sides are conscripting soldiers. Citizens are forced into joining the army. And they may go out of some misconceived zeal. But when they actually get on the battlefield and they see the enemy's formidable weapons and they just see bullets and cannonballs exploding and people just die. I don't want to hear. I want to leave. I want to flee. So was Arjuna fearful like that? What do you think? No? How do you know? Yeah, you're right, but how do we know that Arjuna was not fearful like that?
Maybe because he was a great warrior, like he was a great archer, so yeah.
Yes. See, Arjuna was not, what does that say? Arjuna was not this was not his international debut in warfare, isn't it? He had fought many wars before, and he was a seasoned warrior. So it was unlikely that he would become fearful now. In fact, just before the Kurukshetra war, there had been another war, which was a war? Virat. And there Arjuna had fought alone against all of them. So there he had not been afraid. There the odds had been much worse. But here, you could say there it was like Arjuna was one warrior and there was a giant army on the other side. Hmm? That was Virat. And there Arjuna had not had any fear. Now here the odds were much better. Although the opposite side still had a bigger army, Arjuna had a huge army himself. So if Arjuna had not been afraid there, why would he become afraid now? And more importantly, for Arjuna, if we look at his words in the first chapter, not once does he express fear of his own death. He gives various reasons for fighting, but not once is it for not fighting with them. But not once does he say, "Oh, if I die." That is not in his mental horizon also. He's certainly having fear, but the fear is of making the wrong decision. The fear is of acting in a way that might be harmful. He's worried of the social consequences of this war. What will happen to others? So to understand this, suppose there's a CEO of a big company, and now there's a recession and the company seems to be about to go under. A CEO could be worried. But why are they worried? They could be worried because, oh, I just got this big mansion like house. How am I going to pay the mortgage of that? Or they could think, oh, I got 300 employees. What will happen to their families if my company goes under? Both are worries, but they are different qualities. So Arjuna's concern is for society. And here, when he is in the leadership position, but he's meant to lead his army in what is going to be the biggest battle of his life. At that time, when he said, I'm not sure, should I be fighting this war? Should I not be fighting this war? He has an ethical dilemma. If I fight this war, then so much death will be there. Not just death, that will be my own family, my own dynasty will be killed. So Arjuna is in one sense torn between two duties. He has come to the battlefield to do his Kshatriya dharma, his warrior duty. But then when he actually sees the forces on the opposite side, at that time he is reminded also of his Kula dharma. they're all members of his dynasty and he has a duty towards them. And considering these two duties, he feels confused. What should I be doing? What is the right thing to do? And at that time, he seeks guidance. So, what is so significant about this is that most people, even when they don't know, if they're in leadership position, they'll act as if they know. They'll pretend that they know and they'll try to bluff their way out. Now, sometimes that might work, but many times, especially in high stakes situations, the doctor doesn't know what a disease is or know what the treatment is. The doctor just tries to bluff their way out. Well, the only thing that will go out is the soul from the life of from the patient's body, isn't it? So actually, Arjuna demonstrates a very important quality of a leader or a very responsible person. What is that quality? That he seeks guidance even if it means losing peace. A person in authority, say the captain of the Indian team is leading the captain, and the opposite batsman seems to be batting so well. The captain is just run out of ideas. The captain can keep trying. Or maybe the captain, if there's a break, lunch break, tea break, or the captain can seek guidance from some more senior player, the coach, or somebody else. Now, at least that is happening discreetly. But here in public, Arjuna turns and seeks guidance. And what this indicates is that quite often in life, hmm, the courage to appear foolish. People will think I'm a fool. How can I not know this thing? Courage to appear foolish is the prize to become wise. That unless we have that courage, people may think I'm a fool. Doesn't matter. How I appear is not as important as what I actually become. So Arjuna exhibits that courage. For a warrior, fighting, the courage of fighting is something just ingrained in them. But the courage to look ignorant, to look foolish, that is not the courage that everybody can have. And Arjuna exhibits that courage. We could say the problem in the world, and this is a timeless problem. Well, you can say there are many problems, and many people trying to solve the problems. The problem in the world is that the wise are doubtful. Those who know, oh, maybe we can do this, we can do that, they are doubtful. That is one problem. But the bigger problem is that the foolish are confident. Somebody doesn't know, and I think we will solve this problem. Uh, One of my friends works in the United Nations. And that sometimes they have millions and billions of dollars at their command, and sometimes because of political pressure, they rush into certain solutions, even if adequate studies have not been done. This doesn't happen every time, but the point is, the foolish are sometimes confident. Just do this, and all problems will be solved. So, in fact, for many people, the characteristic of arrogance, Arjuna is exhibiting one characteristic of a leader is humility, the willingness to learn. The arrogance, characteristic of arrogance is that the greater the ignorance, correspondingly, the greater is the confidence. The more a person doesn't know, the more they will claim they know. And that causes a lot of problems in the world. So, a test of being responsible is demonstrated right in the start of the Bhagavad Gita is that we don't know and we seek to learn. And there is so much to know in them. So Arjuna asks Krishna, what is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do? The question he asks is, Prichami Tvam Dharma Sammudha Chetaha. That what is dharma? What is the right thing to do? So when he asks this question, point of this question is, he doesn't want to do the expedient thing, the thing that feels good. He's responsible. What is the right thing? Now, when Krishna gives the answer, the way Krishna gives answer is also significant. What is the acronym we are using? Gita. So the I is intelligence. Krishna doesn't simply try to use his power as God to thrust his opinion or his instruction down Arjuna's throat. If that's what Krishna had wanted to do, Krishna could have finished the whole Gita in 6 words. But like, I am God. Obey me. Fight. That's all. Bhagavad Gita over. Krishna could have done that. Krishna doesn't do that. I was in Texas. I was going for a program and I saw in front of a car bumper. Texas is a part of the Bible Belt. Quite evangelical Christians are there quite a bit. Some of them are good. Some of them are quite extreme. So there's a slogan over there that God said it, I accept it, that settles it. Okay, what is it? Scripture is, life is complex, scripture is complex. There's no way that for every situation that we're going to find in life, there is some quote somewhere and we have to make our brain to like a super Google for scripture and find a quote for every situation. No, the point is, the Gita is meant to equip Arjuna's intelligence. And that's why throughout the Gita is appealing to Arjuna's intelligence. Arjuna asks rational questions and Krishna gives rational answers. Nowhere in the Gita does Krishna say, because I am God and I am saying this, you have to accept it. His tone is rational. Like this is one of the key characteristics of the Bhagavad Gita, that the focus is more on jnana. It is not a call for faith, it is a call for inquiry. Now, faith is required, but the primary focus is not just belief, the primary focus is inquire. And so this is the Gita's focus, and in general, the focus of the Vedic tradition is this: ask big questions. It is not believe. Because when that happens, then there can be a lot of irrationality. The focus is on inquire. Be inquisitive. Seek to learn. Now, when this ethos is not emphasized, when inquiry is not emphasized, when people are just told to believe, and then that leads to problems. In general, if any spiritual book, any religious tradition, if it does not appeal to people's intelligence, rather it simply tries to play on their emotions, then if it's a very hierarchical approach, like this is the authority, this is the subordinate, and I am boss, and you have to obey me. If we have very hierarchical kind of attitude, then that broadly attracts two kinds of people. The first is that those who want to control. That means what they think is, see, right now, I may have to listen to this person. If I listen to this person, in future I'll rise in this hierarchy. I'll become powerful. Those who want to control. And the second is those who don't want to think. Thinking is hard work. Thinking is hard work. And some people just tell me what to do and I follow it. But those kind of followers, what we need in the world, what the world needs, we need people who are spiritually wise. We need spiritual fruits. People in whom spirituality has grown. What the world does not need is religious nuts. We don't need religious nuts. We need spiritual fruits. And some of you may have heard this about this movie, The Kerala Story. This is typical. These two kinds of people are attracted by a very top-down approach. People who are there to control. So for them, any kind of sacred thing, and it doesn't even have to be a religion. The same dynamic was there in communism also. Communism started off as the idea that we will all be equal. But then, as one social commentator said, that in communism, all people are equal, but some are more equal than others. That means everybody will have equal amount of wealth. But who is going to redistribute wealth? Some people are going to decide that. And they naturally get more power than others. So the point is that when there is a very rigid, this is right, this is wrong, everybody has to follow this. Everybody has to fall in line, toe the line. Then that attracts either the people who want to control. And these people can be very dangerous. When these people are control freaks, they are having this narcissistic complex. And then there are people who don't want to think. And this combination is what leads to extremism. It could be religious extremism, it could be secular extremism. Right. So the Gita's approach is actually a protection from that. Krishna, nowhere in the Gita, he just draws on his authority to impose his opinion. In fact, by the end of the Gita, in 1863, Krishna says, now you deliberate on what I have said and then do as you desire. So it's a call to intelligence, the acknowledgement of independence. Deliberate and do as you desire. So the purpose of spirituality is to empower our intelligence so that we can take better, wiser, more responsible decisions. And this approach, where the focus is on nourishing the intelligence, this approach, what it does is, when we talk about this word intelligence is not the same as IQ. IQ. So people who have a high IQ never ask IQ. Just think I'm entitled to my high IQ. Why am I more intelligent than others? Why? Why do I have a higher IQ than others? It's no, I have it and I'm proud of it. But the idea is that, can you even think what is the difference between intelligence and IQ? Is there a difference? Already I've said it. So, so any thoughts of what might be the difference? IQ is more about information processing. A person can memorize, a person can group, a person can process data. That can they do. Whereas intelligence is about decision making. So a person might be an expert scientist. This happened to me when I was studying engineering. I was interested in astrophysics. So I was studying in Pune. So I had gone to Ayuka to meet a young prominent scientist over there. He was brilliant. He was studying the same field which I was hoping to study. But when I was talking with him, he was constantly smoking. So like a chain smoker. And then we talked for some time, and then finally I just asked him, he says, why do you smoke so much? He says, smoking helps me to think. I was thinking in my mind, smoking will stop you from thinking in future. Isn't it? So now you'll be able to do great information processing. But George Bernard Shaw who said, I think that at one end of a cigarette is fire, at the other end is a fool. So now people may be able to process information very well, but that does not necessarily mean that they can take sound decisions. So intelligence, buddhi, is more about the sound decision making ability. So this is what the Gita provides. Like earlier we talked about why we study the Gita. So through our modern education, we get a lot of scientific science is about largely about information process. Science is the study of matter, whereas the Bhagavad Gita is about spirituality. And spirituality is the study of what matters. The study of matter and the study of what matters. What is really important in life? Many things are important, how do we place them in a hierarchy? So that is the intelligence that the Gita provides. So the second principle is the Gita says take responsibility for your own decisions. Take guidance, but don't outsource your decision making responsibility to others. It is you who have to take the decision. So that is intelligence. And the third, what is the acronym once again? So T is transcendence. Transcendence means the Gita says that there are two aspects of this transcendence. Gita says that we have a core that extends beyond the world, extends beyond the world situations. Our identity is three level. There is the body, the mind, and the soul. So the body, the mind, and the soul. We have a physical side, we have a mental side, and we have a spiritual side. This is, you can compare it to computer systems, is the hardware, the software, and the user. So we can often face great turbulence at the level of the body. At the physical level, there can be heat, there can be cold, there can be pleasure, there can be pain, there can be prosperity, there can be poverty. The nature of the world is there are going to be dualities. It's at the level of the body. Now, when these happen at the level of the body, then what happens at the level of the mind after that? How are they going to affect us at the level of the mind? There are two possibilities. One is that those same dualities they get far more accentuated, exaggerated. There are some people who tend to hyperventilate. You heard this word, hyperventilate? A small problem, huge overreaction. When something good happens, now I love this. Something bad happens, I hate this. And love and hate are very strong emotions. One day they feel, oh, my job is the best job in the world. The next is a problem, I hate this job. Why did I even take this job? The same thing, life will have ups and downs. Like if somebody is in a relationship, initially, I can't live without you. After a few days, I can't live with you. So, this life has external dualities, but we can just exaggerate those dualities. And this makes a person very unsteady. So this is unsteady. In fact, it can not just unsteady, it can be very damaging. A person can hurt themselves a lot. The other is that, say, the body, there will be all these dualities, but the mind stays relatively steady. They're not affected that much. This person is really, this is what in corporate language is called as grit or resilience, where a person can take the ups and downs of life in their stride. And this becomes easier. Whatever affects the body, sooner or later does affect the mind. But if we understand that actually we can put these three things in a hierarchical level, that there is the body, there is the mind, and there is the soul. So there can be dualities at this level, there can be dualities at this level. But we are not our physical situations. We are not our mental emotions. We are the feelers of our feelings. We are the seers of our situations. So we exist above our situations and we exist above our emotions. So to the extent we understand this, to that extent we can stay steady. So in the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that you are calculating everything from the material perspective. But you are an eternal spiritual being. They are eternal spiritual beings. Don't take decisions based on short-term vision. Don't just take decisions based on what feels good right now. Oh, this fighting feels bad, I'll not fight. Avoiding the fight feels good. Okay, do that. Arjuna is choosing the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance often ends as the path of the greatest turbulence. It creates more problem in the future. So Krishna tells Arjuna, don't seek these shortcuts. We have physical shortcuts sometimes. Like, I want to go from here to here, the cross country I'll go. Like that, we all have our default mental shortcuts. Mental shortcuts means, so whenever we feel bad, whenever we feel down, whenever we feel any negative emotion, bored, whenever we feel lonely, at that times we may default towards various things. Some of us may default towards, some people may default towards drinking, some of us may default towards TV, some of us may default towards social media, some may default towards eating. So we have these mental shortcuts. They're all, whenever we face anything negative, in general, nobody is comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's just natural. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. But when there is discomfort in life, what do? If we choose the path of least resistance, we often end up with the maximum turbulence. So Krishna tells Arjuna, yes, your body may be uncomfortable, your mind may be uncomfortable, but you exist beyond these things. Don't choose the path of least resistance because that will lead to a destination of most turbulence. Somebody, oh, I'm feeling bored. Once a person gone to a party and he drank a lot. And he had a friend with him, he says, don't drink so much, you're drinking too much. Kept drinking, kept drinking. And the next morning he woke up, he came out and he said, I knew that was a bad idea. The friend said, see, I told you, drinking so much was a bad idea. He said, no, drinking was a great idea. Waking up was a bad idea. So sometimes people they go into turbulence, there's a splitting hangover, but just live in denial. But the path of least resistance gets us into trouble. So the Gita says, even if you have to take difficult, you have to face difficulties. You persist through the difficulties. And the way to persist is by reminding ourselves that none of these difficulties affect our core. That's why, to the extent we practice meditation, to the extent we have some spiritual practices, then our consciousness rises. When we are situated at a spiritual level, then at the level of the body and the mind, even if there are difficulties, we can tolerate them. And that's how we can persist. So transcendence means that not just that we run away from the problems of life, rather we rise above those problems so that we can face them without feeling so threatened, without feeling so overwhelmed. And normally, to the extent we identify ourselves with the body and the mind, this is like the ocean. The world is like an ocean. Now, sometimes in this ocean, there are like monster waves that come, and sometimes we may feel that we're just helpless at the level of the body, at the level of the mind. We'll just be swept away. We can't avoid getting swept away. But what transcendence means is that we understand that there will be this is physical or mental disturbance. mental storms basically, they're like waves. But to the extent we understand that we are spiritual beings, to the extent it is that we rise above those situations. Yeah, this problem is coming, but we understand. I have survived tough problems in the past, and I'll survive this also because I am at my core a spiritual being. This is not just a exercise of the head; it is something which we can realize in our heart as we consciously practice raising our consciousness upwards. So, meditation, for example, mantra chanting, this is what helps us raise our consciousness upwards. And thus, we can take decisions even if they are difficult for us. And that brings us to the last part, A. A is acceptance. Acceptance means that when we have to make decisions, when we face difficulty, we take guidance, use our intelligence, we don't give in to our impulsive emotions. I just don't feel like this, I quit. Don't give in to your emotions. But then is it that suddenly some a lightning bolt like clarity is going to come? Sometimes it may, sometimes it may not. Here acceptance means that acceptance of limitedness and uncertainty. That we are finite beings. And because we are finite beings, what we know is limited. If we consider these are the things that matter to us, but this is the thing that are in our control. So I have to take this decision, but how do I take this decision? I don't know enough about this decision. But sometimes we just have to use or leverage whatever we know, whatever is in our control. Things that are in our control. We accept that this my finite situation means that I can't know everything. The biggest dilemma in life is that we often have to make huge decisions based on tiny. When you choose a career, now how much do you really know about it? You try to learn as much as possible, but when you choose a particular field, maybe that field is promising now. But the way the world is changing, by the time you graduate, something changes. We can't really be sure. If you enter into a relationship, how much can we know about the person? We can try to know as much as possible, and we should. But there is a certain level of uncertainty that comes in our life because of our finiteness. And this is the last part of the teaching of Gita. Acceptance means that there's a twofold part of the acceptance. That there is a higher plan. There is that the world does not move randomly. That the world moves according to a higher plan. And that higher plan has two aspects to it. One is, if you consider, there's a divine plan for the things that are in our control and for the things that are not in our control. The Gita concludes by with a message of surrender. Sarvadharman pritijya mamekam sharanam vraja. Surrender. But what does surrender mean? Now, sometimes some people, I was once giving, I was in San Diego, I was giving a talk, and one speaker asked me, just before this, I had attended a talk, and the speaker was talking about surrender to God. He says, what is this whole idea of surrendering to God? I didn't even know that I was at war with God. So why should I surrender to it? So the people have different ideas about surrender means. But so this is not a military surrender because one army is defeated and they don't want to, but they're reluctant and they have to surrender. No, that's not the idea of surrender. The surrender that the Gita's surrender is that is talked about, it is more out of, it is not out of inability or frustration or failure. It is more about out of love. We understand that There's a higher plan, a higher purpose to life. We, each one of us, is a part of something bigger than ourselves. And each one of us can be a part of a bigger plan. So, this divine plan of surrender means that for the things that are not in our control, there is the acceptance of what happens. Okay, what happens? I'll accept it and I'll try to see how I can move forward from it. And for what is in our control, talk about things that are in our control, there is acceptance of the responsibility to do the right thing, to do what we understand is right, to do what is in our control. So now exactly how the war is going to turn out, Arjuna doesn't know that. Arjuna knows that this is my duty. Why? Because on the opposite side there are people like Duryodhan. Duryodhan had tried to dishonor Draupadi in public. Now there are people who are egomaniacs, there are people who are abusers. They do all kinds of horrifying things. But even they do that kind of thing secretly. If somebody does some abuse or molestation, not just in private but in public, that means that person has no fear of the law. If that person goes to a police station or a court and there that person does something like this, then that person has not only no fear of the law, that person has that arrogance that those who are in control of the law are in fear of me. So Duryodhana was in such a situation. Now, all the law enforcers of that kingdom were in that assembly. And in front of them, he attempted to dishonor Draupadi. If such a person were given untrammeled power, unopposed power, the mind shudders in horror to think what that person would do. Such a person had to be stopped. Even if that person happened to be a relative, even if that person happened to have among his supporters people whom Arjuna respected. So the idea is there are some things which we can't change in our life. So we may face career decisions, we face relationship decisions. Now when we're taking these decisions, there are many things beyond our control. We graduate and that time the economy goes down. Now we can be resentful of that, or we can accept this is what has happened. There is some higher purpose, there is some higher plan. But that does not mean we just become passive and fatalistic. Rather, there is acceptance of what happens for what is not in our control, and the acceptance of the responsibility to make the right things happen as for the things that are in our control. And with this understanding, Arjuna understands that that the whole battle is happening, the world is moving according to a higher plan. And within that higher plan, he has a role. And Arjuna, this is Arjuna's role. So Arjuna becomes confident, I will do my role. Now you may say, how does this help us? What is our role? Wherever we are at our place, every situation we have a choice. Will I act in a way that will make things better, or will I act in a way that will make things worse? Sometimes you say, I don't even know what will make things better, what will make things worse. Well, not really. If we consider in our life, say, if this is things which we know are good for us, say there are two, three things we know which are good for us, and there are things which we know are harmful for us, are bad for us. In between might be a gray zone. But right now, if we start by doing the thing that we know are good for us, we start doing that in a regular way, as much as we can. And the things that we know are harmful for us, we start avoiding them, minimizing them as much as we can. Then we will find that we are here. If we just do these things, a better version of ourselves will come. Now, among the things that are right for us, the key things the Bhagavad Gita teaches us that we connect with the divine. that we are all potentially pure, we are all potentially divine. And there is great wisdom, insight, and strength within all of us. But that is covered right now. So through the practice of bhakti, as we become connected, as we become purified, then we will find that the innate wisdom, the innate strength of the soul will start coming. And as by the practice of bhakti, we will find that we will become wiser, our choices will become better, and our contributions in the world will become greater. So this is how the Bhagavad Gita guides us to a better life. I'll summarize what I discussed today. Broadly discussed 4 points based on we discussed the Bhagavad Gita is when many things to many people, but for Arjuna it was a guidebook for decision making. So what are the 4 principles? Anyone remember? G, guidance. And there we discussed how Arjuna has the courage to appear foolish. So if we don't know, don't just pretend that we know. Seek. The problem in the world is not that the wise are lacking in confidence, but even bigger problem is the foolish are confident. So this is how we can rush into foolish, unhealthy decisions. So seek understanding. So we all have our own goals in life. But does life have a universal purpose? So seek that guidance. So that is the first point. The universal purpose is there one we see. And what is the second one? Yes, intelligence. Intelligence is the capacity to make decisions. That is not the same as IQ. I especially discuss that the Gita's approach, it is not faith based or not belief based, it is more inquiry based. It is not simply a hierarchical approach. Krishna is not thrusting his opinion down on the subordinates. If this happens, the two kinds of people are attracted, and both are a toxic mix. What are the two kinds of control freaks? Those who want to control, and the other are yes, the thoughtless, the unthinking. And this is how what happens when these two come together. Extremes. There are manipulators, and there are those who let themselves get manipulated. The Gita's approach is to equip our intelligence. Third is transcendence. Yes. So, what the Gita says is that in life, basically, our existence is 3 level. There is the body, mind, and soul. So, there will often be situations that may be troubling for our body and for our mind. But if we understand our spirituality, when we have physical or mental, emotional difficulties, we often tend to take the path of least resistance. And that's what often gets us into huge trouble. So, to the extent we can understand that we are spiritual beings, then we won't choose the path of least resistance. We'll rise above our situations and we will to act more maturely. We'll choose based on what is in our best interest. And the last was acceptance. That means that it's not that we expect that suddenly a situation will come and I'll know everything about everything. I'll know what to do in every situation. That may not happen because we are finite beings. But we understand that there is a higher plan by which the world operates. So for the things not in our control, there is acceptance. Okay, that means things will work out for a good thing. So there is a surrender is through acceptance in the form of I will not resist. Let me accept and see how things work out. So here, it's a mode of acceptance of the divine will. There is only a higher plan. Let me wait and watch. But what is in our control? What do we do? There is acceptance of responsibility to do the right thing. So in this way, what is in our control? If we do small things, so like I discussed, there will be many things which are confusing in our life, but we all know, say 3 things which can, if we do, can make our life better. 3 things which you can avoid, at least you can prevent our life from spiraling downwards. You start from there. And one such very empowering thing is the practice of bhakti that connects us with Krishna and helps awaken the divinity, the wisdom, the insight, the strength that is inherent to the soul. Then we all can become better versions of ourselves. Our minds will become calmer, our intelligence will become wiser, and our contributions will become great. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
So, if anybody has any questions and are courageous enough to appear foolish, then, because that's the price to pay to become wise. So, please go ahead and ask. Just kidding, no question is foolish. So, feel free to.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Some like always we don't have a guiding light in the life, like say Arjun had Krishna to turn to, but for very small instances we always don't get someone, say even if we are seeking guidance. So in that situation, what is the best way to like reconcile?
The point is, even when Krishna had Arjuna had Krishna with him, still Arjuna was not micro-controlling. Arjuna was not being micro-controlled by Krishna. Krishna gave counsel at critical moments. But Arjuna was taking decisions. And Krishna was fine with that. See, God has not given us our individuality and our independence to condemn us. It is meant for us to choose wisely, to express our devotion. When I travel across the world, many times parents approach me and tell me about how, say, their children don't listen to them, and children are often headaches or even heartaches for the parents. But then I ask them, would you want to, say, replace your child with a perfectly obedient robot? No, many parents would like a perfectly obedient robot, but that is in addition to their children, not in replacement of their children. Why? Because with a robot, there is no reciprocation of love. So if parents here wouldn't want that, Krishna doesn't want that. Krishna is a supreme and supremely benevolent parent. The point is that we take decisions using our God-given intelligence. And then we learn from experience. Okay, yeah, this was a little bit impulsive. Maybe I should have thought a little more about this. Maybe I should have thought about that. I didn't think. We learn by experience. So major decisions, it's better to pause, reflect, and seek guidance. But small decisions, just use our intelligence. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one of his, he's a prominent Gita commentator, he says that suppose we want to go from here to say point A to point B we want to go. But we start off and we find that, oh, this has brought us somewhere else. So we took a wrong decision. Now he said that does not mean that now we have to go back here and then come back. He says that we can go from where we are. Sometimes we make the right decisions, and sometimes we make the decisions right. That means, okay, I make the best out of bad bargain, and that's how we learn. That's how we grow. Thank you. Any other questions?
Let's all thank Prabhuji for the wonderful talk. So he's on a tour in the United States right now, and he's visited many places, and this is his a few days in New York. So we are very lucky to have him with us. So we also have some of the books that Prabhuji wrote.
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
So, this is my latest book. This is the element of T that I talked about, transcendence. You are not your mind, you are better. There's 64 reflections based on the Bhagavad Gita. Why does our mind become moody? When the mind is not working with us, what can we do? So each of these is a short 2-page article with a simple illustration. and some explanation. There's also one sentence summary about what the theme of the article is. The mind treats us badly, yet we trust it madly. So each of these is a reflection that can help you better manage your mind. And this is a book based on the Ramayana, wisdom from Ramayana on life and relationships. There are about 20 incidents from the Ramayana that are analyzed and practical life lessons are drawn. Vali and Sukri were brothers and best of friends, yet they ended up becoming enemies. So, what caused the misunderstanding? Could that have been avoided? Or when things go wrong, how do we deal with them? Should we accept them as destiny or should we try to fix them? What is Lord Ram's response? What is Bharat's response? What is Lakshman's response? So, destiny, free will, karma, that's a common question. That's also answered in this book, Three Incidents from the Ramayana. Like that, there are 20 incidents and life lessons from there. And this is 365 quotes inspired by the Bhagavad Gita. It says, be mindful or your mind will make you a fool. So then there are those who open their mouth without opening their mind often have to eat their words. So this is inspired by 1715 in the Bhagavad Gita. So it takes courage to accept our weaknesses. It takes more courage to accept ourselves with our weaknesses. Based on 1835 in the Bhagavad Gita. So each of these, if you Google it, there's also an article on my website, gitadaily.com. You can learn more. But otherwise, also these quotes are self-explanatory and it's a quick way to connect yourself with some spiritual wisdom and have something to churn on during the days. This is timeless in the sense that it is not meant for any particular year. We keep circulating. So you can have any of these available. And I'm also available for signing if you want. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.